There is a quiet power that does not announce itself. It does not seek attention. It does not rush. And yet, it changes everything. This power is consistency. When a woman becomes consistent every day, her life does not transform overnight. There is no sudden applause, no dramatic moment. Consistency begins in the smallest, most ordinary moments. It is not built in grand decisions, but in the quiet choice to show up again and again, especially when no one is watching. When a woman keeps her word to herself in these moments, something subtle starts to shift within her. At first, it may not feel significant. The effort feels small, almost invisible, but each time she follows through on what she said she would do, she sends a signal inward that she is someone who can be relied upon. For a long time, many people search for confidence outside themselves. They look for reassurance, for approval, for signs that they are on the right path. But when a woman becomes consistent, she begins to create that reassurance from within. She no longer depends on how she feels in the moment. Whether she feels motivated or not becomes less important. What matters is that she continues. And in that continuation, she starts to see evidence of her own strength. There is a deep difference between believing you can trust yourself and knowing it through experience. Consistency turns that belief into something real. It is no longer an idea in her mind. It becomes something she has lived. She remembers the days she did not feel like trying, and yet she did. She remembers the times she could have stopped, but chose not to. These memories become proof. Quiet proof that she is capable of staying with something, even when it is difficult. Over time, this changes how she speaks to herself. The inner voice that once doubted, hesitated, or questioned her ability begins to soften. Not because she forced it to change, but because it no longer has the same control. Her actions have created a new reality. She does not need to convince herself anymore. She has already shown herself what she can do. This kind of self-trust creates stability. She is no longer pulled in different directions by every emotion or distraction. There is a sense of grounding that comes from knowing she will continue regardless of how the day feels. And in that grounding, there is a quiet sense of peace, because she is no longer abandoning herself when things become uncomfortable. The need for external validation often begins quietly. It appears in the desire to be seen, to be appreciated, to be reassured that one is on the right path. A woman may look to others for signs that she is doing well, waiting for recognition before she allows herself to feel worthy. This creates a subtle dependence where her sense of value rises and falls based on how the world responds to her. When she becomes consistent, this pattern begins to change, not because she forces herself to ignore others, but because her focus slowly shifts inward. Each day that she shows up for herself, she gathers a kind of evidence that cannot be given by anyone else. It is not based on opinions or praise. It is built through action, through effort, through quiet discipline that only she fully understands. At first, the habit of seeking validation may still be present. She may still notice when someone approves of her or when they do not. But over time, these reactions begin to lose their intensity. They no longer define her. They become background noise rather than the center of her attention. This happens because she has started to build a more stable foundation within herself. Consistency teaches her to measure her worth differently. Instead of asking, "Do they see me?" she begins to ask, "Did I show up today?" Instead of wondering, "Do they approve of me?" she reflects, "Did I act in alignment with what I believe is right?" These questions bring her back to herself. They remove the constant need to look outward for answers. There is a quiet freedom in this shift. When a woman is no longer dependent on external validation, she moves differently. She is not easily shaken by criticism, nor overly elevated by praise. She listens, but she does not lose herself in what she hears. There is a sense of balance that allows her to remain steady, even in uncertain environments. Her decisions also become clearer. Without the pressure to please everyone or to fit into expectations, she begins to act with more honesty. She chooses what aligns with her values, not what gains the most approval. This does not make her distant or disconnected. Instead, it allows her to engage with others from a place of authenticity rather than need. As this inner grounding deepens, her presence changes. There is less urgency in how she speaks, less tension in how she carries herself. She is no longer trying to prove something. She is simply living in a way that feels true to her, guided by the quiet confidence that comes from within. Growth rarely reveals itself in dramatic moments. It does not arrive all at once, nor does it announce its presence. Instead, it unfolds quietly through repetition, through patience, through a steady willingness to continue, even when nothing seems to be changing. When a woman becomes consistent, she begins to understand this rhythm. She stops expecting immediate results and starts to trust the process itself. In the beginning, this can feel uncomfortable. The mind often seeks quick progress, visible outcomes, something that confirms the effort is working. But consistency asks for something different. It asks her to continue without constant proof, to act without needing instant reward. And in doing so, she begins to develop a deeper kind of patience, one that is not forced but naturally cultivated through experience. She starts to see that real growth is not something that can be rushed. It requires space. It requires time. It requires the ability to remain steady, even when the results are not yet visible. This understanding softens the pressure she once placed on herself. She no longer feels the need to compare her progress with others or to measure her worth based on how quickly things change. Nature reflects this truth with great clarity. Consider a tree growing in silence. Each day it does not appear to change much. There are no sudden movements, no visible transformation that captures attention. And yet, beneath the surface, its roots are expanding deeper into the ground. Strength is being built where no one can see it. Over time, with enough patience and consistent nourishment, the tree becomes strong enough to withstand storms. Not because it grew quickly, but because it grew steadily. In the same way, her daily efforts begin to take root within her. The small habits she repeats, the choices she makes each day, start to shape her from the inside. Even when there is no immediate recognition, something is forming. Her mindset becomes more stable. Her emotions becomes less reactive. Her direction becomes clearer. This kind of growth is sustainable. It does not depend on bursts of motivation or short-lived inspiration. It is built on something more reliable. And as she continues, she begins to trust that even on the days that feel slow or unremarkable, something meaningful is still unfolding within her. Confidence is often misunderstood as something that must be displayed, something that needs to be seen and recognized by others. It is associated with boldness, with speaking loudly, with proving one's worth in visible ways. But the confidence that grows through consistency is different. It is quiet, steady, and deeply rooted in experience rather than appearance. When a woman shows up for herself every day, even in the smallest ways, she begins to build a relationship with her own effort. She no longer depends on moments of success to feel capable. Instead, her confidence comes from knowing that she will continue regardless of the outcome. This creates a sense of stability that does not fluctuate with external circumstances. There is something powerful about repetition. Each time she follows through on what she intended to do, she strengthens an internal foundation. It is not dramatic and it does not need to be. Over time, these repeated actions begin to form a quiet certainty within her. She does not need to announce it. She simply knows. This knowing changes how she approaches challenges. Where there was once hesitation, there is now a calm willingness to try. She understands that difficulty is not a sign to stop, but a natural part of growth, because she has already proven to herself that she can stay consistent. She is less afraid of discomfort. It no longer feels like something that will break her. It becomes something she can move through. Her confidence also becomes less dependent on perfection. She no longer waits to feel fully prepared before taking action. She is willing to begin even if things are not ideal. This allows her to move forward without being held back by doubt or overthinking. She trusts that she will adjust along the way because she has done so before. There is also a quiet humility in this kind of confidence. She does not feel the need to compare herself with others or to compete for attention. Her focus remains on her own path, her own growth. This creates a sense of peace because she is not constantly measuring herself against the world around her. As this confidence deepens, It becomes part of how she carries herself. It is present in her decisions, in her consistency, in the way she continues without needing recognition. It is not something she tries to project. It is something that naturally exists, built slowly through her daily actions and her willingness to remain committed to herself. There is a cycle many people find themselves trapped in, often without fully realizing it. It begins with a moment of inspiration, a surge of motivation that brings clarity and energy. In that moment, everything feels possible. Plans are made, goals are set, and there is a strong sense of direction. For a short time, actions follow this energy. Effort feels natural, almost effortless. But as quickly as this motivation arrives, it begins to fade. Distractions return, emotions shift, and the initial intensity weakens. Slowly, the actions stop. What was once started is left unfinished, and after some time, the cycle begins again. When a woman becomes consistent, she steps out of this pattern. She no longer depends on feeling motivated to take action. She understands that motivation is temporary, something that rises and falls without warning. Instead of waiting for the right feeling, she creates a structure that allows her to continue regardless of how she feels in the moment. This shift may seem simple, but it changes everything. In the beginning, it requires awareness. She begins to notice how often she has started over in the past, how many times she has relied on bursts of inspiration that did not last. Rather than judging herself for it, she starts to see it clearly. This awareness becomes the first step toward change. She realizes that if she continues to rely only on motivation, the pattern will repeat itself. Consistency introduces a different approach. It is not driven by emotion, but by commitment. She chooses a direction and decides to stay with it, even when the excitement fades. This does not mean every day feels easy or enjoyable. There are days when resistance appears, when the mind looks for excuses, when comfort feels more appealing than effort. But instead of stopping completely, she learns to continue in smaller ways. Even a small step becomes important because it keeps the rhythm intact. Over time, this rhythm begins to replace the old cycle. There are fewer moments of stopping completely, fewer long gaps where nothing moves forward. Instead of starting from the beginning again and again, she builds upon what she has already done. Each day connects to the next, creating a sense of continuity. Progress may still feel slow at times, but it is no longer lost. This changes her relationship with herself. She no longer sees herself as someone who begins and abandons. She begins to see herself as someone who stays. This identity shift is subtle, but it carries weight. It influences how she approaches new goals, how she responds to challenges, how she speaks to herself when things become difficult. There is also less emotional exhaustion in this way of living, in this way of the constant rise and fall of motivation can be draining, creating a sense of instability. Consistency, on the other hand, brings a quieter energy. It removes the pressure to feel inspired all the time. It allows her to move with steadiness rather than intensity. As this way of being deepens, starting over becomes less familiar. Not because she never faces setbacks, but because she no longer abandons herself completely when they happen. She adjusts, she continues, and in doing so, she remains connected to her path without returning to the beginning each time. And in this quiet persistence, her life begins to take a different shape, not because she chased something extraordinary, but because she honored what was simple. Every single day, there is no longer a need to rush, no need to prove, no need to begin again from nothing. She moves forward with a calm certainty, step by step, breath by breath, grounded in the rhythm she has created. And one day, without even realizing when it happened, she looks at her life, and it feels different, not louder, not more dramatic, but deeper, stronger, more her own, because she did not wait to become someone else. She simply chose to show up, and in doing so, she became someone she can trust.